Good evening, good evening. I'm going to ask Mr. Frank Nicely to come up here, please. Come on down, Frank. Hope you got your Kevlar on. I don't know if Hawkins County is a victim of redistricting or if Frank is a victim of redistricting, but he has gotten redistricted. He's not, to my knowledge, terminally ill or retiring from politics. He's very much alive down there in Jefferson and now Sevier County. And we've traded him in for a newer and sportier model. Mr. John Lundberg is our new senator here in Hawkins County. So, but we want to do something for Frank. He's been a good old soldier down there in Nashville for us. We appreciate him. I actually thought about writing a long and flowery speech about you because you're one of my favorite people. He can talk to you about pretty much anything you want to talk about. But Frank, there you go.
Well, thank you very much.
All right.
I'm not sure you want me to say anything, but definitely up here at the mic, so here goes. You know, I've been wrong a lot in my life. First time I saw a bottle of water, I said, who in the world would buy a bottle of water? First time I saw a big round bale of hay, I said, who would want a big round bale of hay? But in politics, I've tried to slow down and listen to people and do like Davy Crockett. The same Davy Crockett whose grandparents were killed down here in Rogersville and whose deaf and dumb uncle was stolen by the Indians for 20 years. Davy said, be sure you're right, and then go ahead. And that's what I've tried to do, and so far it's worked out. I'm going to miss y'all, but really, you still got two senators now. You got John Lundberg, and you got me. If you got a little problem, call John. If you got a big problem, call me. If you got a great big problem, call both of us. Thank you very much.
I always tell this, when I ran the first time back in 2016, I told everybody I run up and down the road. I got to. It was an honor to ride up and down the road with the Congressman Bill Jenkins and picking his brain and Frank Nicely's brain, and what great, good guidance they gave me. The sad part is I can't tell you one word of it. All right, thank you again, Frank, for all that you do. We greatly appreciate not only you being here, but the service you provided to Hawkins County in the past several years, as a matter of fact. So thank you, and it's been an honor to serve with you. So thank you. All right, making sure I didn't miss anything. I think the good part is next. Yes, so we're going to, one quick thing we're going to do is we're going to recognize the candidates. Now, this part here can also get tricky too. One, because you're the only thing between everybody else and dinner. And the second thing is, it's always tricky because when we say, candidates, stand up and tell us your name and what you're running for, some people think that's cue for give a campaign speech. But let me tell you why we're going to do it this way. Because you're going to stand up, you're the second candidate, and you're going to say your name and what you're running for, and you're going to stand up so they can see you. Then we're going to break for dinner in a second. That way, everybody knows where you're sitting so they can come talk to you and identify you. So this is your chance. You will get points, not only for not clapping when you're not supposed to, but for being quick. So let me set the tone here. So I'm Gary Hicks. I'm running for state representative here in Hawkins County. I appreciate your vote. Now that has set the bar right there, okay? That's what we're looking for, okay? So I hope we're clear. We're going to start first. And again, thank you all for being here. We do, this is important, right? It's almost election time. And so these folks that have been out working hard, my goodness, I'm telling you, I've never seen so much signs. And people say, the signs, but listen, that's part of the campaign process. And I'm sorry, but those signs don't walk out there themselves and stick themselves up. It's because these people are working hard. So they need to be recognized. Ever how it goes, ever how it turns out, at the end, we're thankful that they kind of put themselves out there. And it's tough. That's a tough position to be in. But we want to say thank you. And so we're not going to pass tonight without letting each candidate stand up. So again, that they can be recognized. So we're going to jump in here and we're going to start with our federal candidate. So if you are a federal candidate at this time, if you would just stand and tell us your name and what position you're running for. And we're going to start with the Congress lady. Where's she at?
Thank you, Gary. I'm Diana Harshbarger, and I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives to represent you again in District 1. That's my
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anyone else on the federal scene? All right, we're gonna move right into, and we're gonna hold our applause to the end, and we'll clap it to the end. All right, so next is gonna be our state candidates. If you are a state candidate, would you please stand, and we'll start to the left and work our way over to my right. So your right, left, we'll start with Scotty Campbell.
State Representative Scotty Campbell of Johnson County, seeking to represent Eastern Hawkins County. Thank you.
Crystal, I think you'd be next.
Crystal Goen Jesse, running for Circuit Court Judge Part 2. Thank you.
Todd.
Todd Stephen, running for public defender.
Dan Armstrong, running for District Attorney General.
Deanna Snyder, I'm running for public defender.
Alex Pearson, running for Circuit Court Judge Part 1.
John Duggar, running for criminal court judge. Thank you.
Circuit Judge William Phillips, I'm running to retain my seat. I'm not running against Alex.
I'm Bradley Mercer. I'm one of your assistant DAs. I'm running for circuit court judge. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Jesse Doug Jenkins, running thankfully unopposed. Thank you.
I'm gonna let Judge Duggar jump up next. There you got John Duggar? Okay. All right, thank you. I didn't want to make him mad. All right, anyone else? State? I've already said my name, so I'm good. All right, let's give all these candidates we're gonna have to, everybody just stand up all at once here, and then we're gonna go to the left and we'll just zigzag back and forth. So go ahead, candidates local, candidates stand up where everybody can see you real good. There we go. Sarah, hold on, I think we're gonna start with Judy, and we're gonna work our way down and just circle back this way and zigzag back. All right, Judy, let her read.
I'm Judy Kirkpatrick. I'm your Register of Deeds now, and I'm seeking re-election.
Ron Lightfoot for Register of Deeds.
Mike Correll, running for Hawkins County Mayor.
Kenneth Stapleton, I'm running for Hawkins County Mayor.
Chad Breton, running for Commission District 4. Danny Jones, running for Road Superintendent.
Mark Hale, running for Register of Deeds.
Michael Gillespie, County Property Assessor.
Danny Alves, Hawkins County Commissioner, District 3.
Jeff Grant, County Commissioner, District 2.
Robbie Palmer, County Commissioner, District 7.
Stacy Vaughn, seeking Hawkins County Mayor.
Jason Rhodes, running for 5th District Commission.
Brenda Davis, 5th District Commissioner.
William Palmer, 3rd District Commissioner. Joe Perry, I'm seeking Austin Hawkins County President.
Randall Collier, Circuit Court.
Kelly Markham, running for Hawkins County Mayor.
Keith Gibson, running for Hawkins County Mayor, you know, it talks.
Tom Kern, County Commissioner, District 2.
Mark DeWitt, Hawkins County Mayor.
Nancy Barker, 6th District Commissioner.
Debbie
Shea, running for 6th District, Hawkins County Board of Education.
Jim Shays, running for trustee.
All right. Anyone else? All right, let's give all these folks a Congresswoman Harshbarger has been a licensed pharmacist and successful business owner for over 3 decades. She brings a no-nonsense, common sense approach to Washington, D.C. Diana and her husband, Robert, currently reside in Kingsport. They have 1 son and 2 grandchildren. So without further ado, would you welcome Congressman Diana Harshbarger to the stage.
Gary's so good, he didn't have to say all that stuff, but I'm going to be brief. I only have 30 pages. Right, Cal? That's how it works. No. I'm just going to give you a couple of things that we're going to be working on for this 2022 election coming up in November. Now, I want you to let me know if you think this is true. There's 4 basic Republican tenets, and one is make government very small. Clap if you think that's appropriate. And then, local control of the government is very important. Do you agree? More local control. We want to empower the free markets in any way, shape, and form we can. And in, well, they didn't like that, that's good. And we absolutely need more Christian authority when we legislate. That is very important. I want you to know there's 4 things that we're working on as a Republican conference in D.C., and McCarthy has laid out a commitment to America. It's what we already do in Tennessee. And one is the premise that we need safe communities and a secure border. We need a secure economy, and that means keeping food on the shelf, but also on your table. We want success for our children and our kids, and we want to keep those schools open. We want accountability in government, and that is what we don't have right now. And when we take the House back, and I've talked to Whip Scalise and McCarthy, everybody, there's going to have to be oversight, because it's going to take 2 years just to uncover what this administration has done. Every time I walk by a briefing room, I hear something, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. What do you mean this happened? The farther you dig, the deeper in that hole you get. And so it's going to take quite a while to uncover some of the policies they put in place. I heard today at the yesterday, the TSA changed the rules on gender. So now, it doesn't matter if they're going to have to change the algorithms for the TSA machines. And they've allotted multi-millions to do that. So if you're a man or a woman, it's going to call you neutral. It's unbelievable the money they spend. You can't make this up. And what Governor DeSantis is doing in Florida with that bill that protects those 1st through 3rd graders from vile education practices is wonderful. But you see what kind of blowback he's getting back from Disney. And to hear what some of these upper executives are doing with some of the Disney movies that are coming out is unbelievable and unconscionable. Would you ever have thought that would ever happen while we were alive? We have to be bold, and we have to combat that. Right, Cameron? Right? Cameron, listen, there's a lot going on in Tennessee. And Tennessee is a well-run state. And we absolutely cannot let these people get a foothold. And he's looking at maybe repealing some of the tax incentives. I wish Georgia had done that to Delta when they came up. I wish Tennessee had done that with FedEx down in Memphis when they said, we're going to move. These people can't afford to move a big company. So they bully you into doing things you wouldn't do otherwise. Call their bluff. That's what I say. I want you to know that Republicans are leading in a generic ballot, and it's greater than it ever has been in 40 years since they've been tracking that. That's a good thing. They have a massive advantage with voters who have economic concerns, and we're leading by 24 points. That's like things like anybody paying more for gas than you did? Yeah, who's paying more at the grocery store? It's an average of $3,500 to $6,000 more per year for an average family just at the grocery store level. People are going to have to make decisions whether they're going to eat or pay for their medications or buy gas for their vehicle. And all this is deliberate. This administration is not anti-energy, it's anti-American energy. All politics is local. You've heard me say it over and over. I say it everywhere I go. All politics is local. It matters who you put in as your councilman, as your alderman, as your mayor, as your school board member, as your sheriff, as your judges. It matters at a local level, at a state level, at a federal level. Because there are evil people out there that are trying to infiltrate us at every level of government. And it is up to you to do your due diligence on everybody. Look up what they stand for. Go back, do what anybody else does. Get on Facebook, look at the things about these individuals and see if they have the same moral status that you do. Because it's all important. And I'm going to stop, and I'm going to leave you with a quote. And Eleanor Roosevelt said this quote. It says, "Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. So bring your bold ideas and get out there and talk to these people running for office, because it all matters. And if you believe something and you want to push your district, your area, your state forward, don't back down. Don't let them bully you into anything. Just stand up for what's right, because the truth will stand when the road's on fire, and I've said that over and over. And get out and vote, and take your brother, your mother, your sister, your cousin, anybody you can get, because your vote matters. And Tennessee's doing a fantastic job when it comes to voter integrity. I'm reading more and more about the discrepancies in the last election. And I just read today about some things in Wisconsin. Your vote does matter, so don't think it doesn't. So get out and vote, and get ready to get your surfboard out, because we're going to ride that red wave come November, okay? So with that, I'll yield to Gary, and just get ready, because we're going to change the country.
Would you all please make welcome to the stage Senator John Randall.
Gary, I need to change that, because tonight I got the most important part of the designation, which is, Chancellor, I think I'm going to use it now from now on. I'm the younger and sportier version of Frank Nicely. I love that. I really do. So, thank you. Frank, stand up for a minute if you would. Frank and I have served together, not only in the Senate, but we served together in the House. What the Congresswoman was talking about was spot on. When I started, we were in the minority in Tennessee, and you started before me, Senator, and I know we were in the minority then. After we took the majority and the supermajority, you have seen what this state has done with conservative fiscal management, with a balanced budget, no debt, and we've continually cut taxes and AAA bond ratings. It's from people like Frank Nicely. And Frank, thank you for what you've done in Hawkins County. And speaking of leadership, Speaker Sexton, it leads 99 people in the House, a supermajority, and does an incredible job. He will give you details. I just wanted to say thank you very much. Your delegation here is frankly incredible. Gary Hicks and I go back a number of years. He is a very potent individual as chairman of the Finance Subcommittee. And Scotty Campbell, I worked with in Mountain City as well. When they said in redistricting I was losing Johnson County and Carter County and gaining Hawkins County, they said, is that okay with you? I said, well, Hawkins County is fine. They're great conservative Republicans. I just don't have relationships with these folks. So over the next few years, the good news and bad news is we're going to see a lot more of each other. Sorry. But I'll tell you some things we've done and what you have done in Hawkins County. Sarah K. Campbell has been confirmed on the Supreme Court in Tennessee. She is from Hawkins County. You have great leadership. I just want to say thank you. I look forward to, over the next few years, getting to know you, getting to work with you. If you need anything, like Frank said, call him. So, but no, you can call me. And very proud and very honored to represent you. Thank you very much.
I get to serve with Scotty each and every day. I serve with him on the Finance, Ways and Means Committee, and I can tell you he is a valued member of that committee. Scotty's been there, even though he was down there for a while, then he left, and he can talk about that in a second, then he came back. Scotty was one of those where he didn't have to figure out where the bathroom was when he got there. When he got re-elected this past time, he already knew, and he hit the ground running, and he has continued to do so. He represents now, of course, Johnson, Carter, and Sullivan counties, and he does a fantastic job doing that. So when I was told, you didn't know I was going to take this long, so when I was told that I was going to be losing that tip, the first thing of Hawkins County, I wanted to know, who's coming? And they said Scotty Campbell. And so it was good. So I am tickled to death that he's here tonight. So would you all please make welcome my good friend, Scotty Campbell.
Good evening, folks. You know, after hearing Gary Hicks give that introduction and read some of that bio, I'm trying to figure out if I'm a heavy hitter or just heavy, okay? Glad y'all are here, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve in the Tennessee House of Representatives. I'll share a few things, and I won't take much of your time. First, I want to thank the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. We were elected together as members of the General Assembly in 2010. I was 26 years old, and at the ripe old age of 28 in 2012, I announced that due to my long-term personal and educational goals, I was not seeking re-election. I went back to college, earned a second degree, worked as a paramedic, and some of you know me because of something else I've done, and my voice was heard in Hawkins County about 5 days a week. I was on Super Talk 92.9 doing the morning show where we talked local, state, and national issues. So I was a talk radio host and learned a lot through doing that. Spent hours preparing for that day. And then 2020 rolled around, and I've been doing work on an ambulance and work in talk radio, and some people started calling saying, hey, we think we're going to have a vacancy in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Would you want to come back? I said, no, thank you. I said, I know what kind of time commitment that is. And then I did some more thinking and all those other things that we do, and it sounded better by the day. Once a number of people started reaching out, making me feel at home, and I appreciate that very much and the opportunity. So I live in Mountain City in Johnson County. It's an hour and 47 minutes approximately to this building. I represent all of Johnson, part of Carter, which would be about half of Roan Mountain, all of Hampton, Elk Mills, Hoagie, Butler. All of Mountain City and Johnson, then I extend into southern Sullivan County, which is Chinky Pin, a good part of Bluff City, little of Bluntville, all of Piney Flats, and then near Sullivan Gardens, the map does something like this. And then it says, hello, welcome to Eastern Hawkins County. And so if you will allow me the opportunity to continue serving, I will begin serving the people of Eastern Hawkins County, Mount Carmel, Allendale, and the King's Court addresses in Hawkins County. At this point, I am unopposed, and I don't take that lightly. This is a tremendous responsibility. It's a weight that kind of on your shoulders that you think about, and think about the counties you represent. You think about the counties that you don't directly represent, but that your decisions may have an impact in. But I will wrap it up with that and tell you all once again, thank you, and it's a great honor to serve with Frank Nicely, John Lundberg, Gary Hicks, and Speaker Sexton and other members of the General Assembly. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is me. If you haven't got enough of me by yet already, and I feel sorry for you. So all this is all I'm going to say. Thank you for allowing me to serve as 9th District State Representative. It's been an honor and a thrill of a lifetime, and I hope I get to continue to do so. I tell everybody when I show up in Nashville, I get to go because of a couple of reasons. Number one, the good Lord above said I could go. Number two, my wife said I could go. The third thing is, you all said I could go as voters. So let me say thank you for that. Once I got there, one of the first committees I was put on was Health Committee. In Health Committee, it was chaired by a young man by the name of Cameron Sexton. And I don't know why, I don't know what the reason was, I've never asked him, but for some reason, he asked me to start coming to some of the bill reviews, and I was the only person there. So next thing you know, I saw in Cameron Sexton then, and I'm not introducing you, Will's gonna do that in a second, so, but you know, I've got to get this off my chest. So I don't know why, but Cameron and I forged a relationship and a friendship then. And so when he became Speaker of the House, and it didn't take me long to realize when we saw some transitioning occurring of who our leader needed to be. And so I went to him pretty early, and I said, I hope you're ready. And he kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm behind you. I don't know if he had made plans yet to be Speaker, but I knew who I was voting for. So I'm glad you ran. Lo and behold, now he's made me, a position down there that it's not me, it's a position that he's put me in as chairman of finance, budget sub. It's a really important position because that's where everybody says that's where bills go to die, but that's where bills go to get funded. It's a very important position, and it's not a position because I'm there. It's a position because Cameron Sexton put me there. So all I'll say is thank you all for letting me go and to Nashville and to serve you all. And if I can ever help you in any way, please don't hesitate and wonder what Gary would think. Wonder if he can help. Just pick up the phone, and if I can't help you, I will find somebody who will. So thank you all. All right, so let's welcome to the stage now. It's time for our guest speaker, but I'm going to ask Will Jenkins if he will come to the stage at this time.
Will Jenkins. I'm here to introduce our guest speaker, who, as you've already heard, is the Speaker of the Tennessee House of Representatives, Cameron Sexton. I think the other representatives and people in state government have done a good job of kind of introducing you to how he does as speaker. So I'll just share a little bit about my experience while I was an intern in his office during last year's legislative session. And I'll just say that he does a great job of running the Speaker's office, the entire House of Representatives. He runs a tight ship. He has a great team put together. Taffy's here. If you see her, wave at her. She's a great woman. But I will say everyone in the office was incredibly nice to me. Everyone in the entire House of Representatives was incredibly nice to me. And I believe those kind of things start from the top down. And I think he does a great job of just encouraging the culture that we have in the House of Representatives. And he's really steadied it since he's become Speaker. So I'll let him come up here and say whatever he has to say to y'all. So here's Speaker of the Tennessee House of Representatives, Cameron Sexton.
It's an honor to be here. And Will was an intern in our office, but let me just say to his family, he was much more than an intern. He was a fabulous person who did anything we asked him to do. And he's a lot like Frank Nicely. He has more stories and more conversations to have with than anybody we've ever met. And you have a bright future. We're looking forward to you achieving much success in your life. Before I get started real quick, it's great to be here. And I know Congressman Jenkins can't be here. I spoke to him on the way up. But what he has done for our state as congressman, and he was also Speaker of the House, one of the very first Republican speakers of the House. And actually, he was Speaker of the House the year I was born. And so he has had a long and distinguished career. And so our state owes him a lot, because there's pioneers in the Republican Party who set the path for us, and he was one of them for us in Middle and West Tennessee, where you could say, we're going to have a Republican House one day and a Republican Senate. It's great to be here with Frank, who was in the House. It seems like everybody who serves in the House, John served in the House, they all go to the Senate. I haven't quite figured that out yet. But it's great to serve with Frank, and John and I were in the same office my freshman year, and he mentored me. And he was one of the first ones that killed one of my first bills, so congratulations. He taught me well how to handle rejection. That's one of the things you have to do as a legislator. It's great to be here with Scotty Campbell. We came in as freshmen. I'm glad that he's back. He's in leadership. He's doing a fabulous job for the whole area up here. And then Gary Hicks. Can't say enough about Gary Hicks. He is my budget sub-chairman, which is one of the biggest roles that you can have in the General Assembly, making sure that we watch every single dollar that we have, making sure that we're on the right path, and making sure that we work with the governor in the Senate, and he's in those negotiations, which is going to start here in a couple weeks, to get us a passed budget. He is a fine fella. He really is. Y'all have great representatives represent you, and when they're in Nashville, and I know it's a long drive, but when they're in Nashville, we don't all get to see the faces of the 300 people who are here. But these are your faces, and those faces serve you very well. So let's give them a hand for the job that they do. And also, it's great to see Congresswoman Harshbarger here today. We've developed a strong relationship. I just love how down to earth and direct she is. We just kind of need more of that in politics as well. Let me say a little bit about Tennessee. Tennessee, we are very blessed to live here in Tennessee. In Hawkins County, man, you all are red. And you're so red that when my 7-year-old daughter, Greer, gets a Crayola and she looks for a crayon, we can't find one that's red enough to meet how red you are here in Hawkins County. Because that's how much Republican you are in Upper East Tennessee. And so what we have here in the state in 12 years is 12 short years under Republican control in the House and Senate, constitutional officers, and 2 governors. We're the 7th most tax-free state in America, the 7th. We're the 5th most free state in America, the best business climate, best workforce development, most physically conservative state, most physically stable state, the least debt state, the best run state. And all that happened is in 12 years under Republican control. I know y'all have been Republican a long time, but it took Tennessee a little bit longer to get there. But in 12 short years, we've done more than the Democrats have done in 100. And I know that Governor DeSantis gets a lot of credit for a lot of things that he does, which is great, and he should. He's running for president, potentially, or vice president. But let me just tell you, we beat Florida every single day. They may get the credit, which is fine, but in Tennessee, we were the first state that passed a riding legislation that put mandatory minimums on riders. It wasn't Florida. Florida got credit, but it was your representatives here in Tennessee. Also in Tennessee, we were the first to pass election integrity. We started doing election integrity 12 years ago. First thing that we passed was photo ID in our state. And then they get a lot of credit for their COVID business liability protection. But they did it 6 months after the state of Tennessee. And so we may not get the credit for it. We may not throw up the banner to say that we take the first credit for it. But you can be self-assured that the state of Tennessee is leading the country. And when you go places, everybody's taking notice of what's happening in Tennessee. And they want to be here. They want to live here. They want to vacation here. They want to move their business here. But one of the things that we need to continue to work on is we want to have safer streets and safer communities. That's a big issue. When you see what's going on in Washington and California and Oregon and Illinois and New York, and just keep naming the blue states. Although we're very blessed to have blue states because those blue states are moving all their people, conservatives, out of the state, and we're getting a lot of business. But we also want to make sure that we support our law enforcement and our DAs and our judges because they have a job to where people attack them so frequently, they don't want to be in that occupation anymore. But in order to have a society that's safe and neighborhoods that's safe and making sure that your kids can walk down the street safely, we got to do certain things. And so a lot of times you hear about criminal justice reform. And criminal justice reform is usually about when you're in prison or coming out of prison. But it starts much earlier than that. And so true criminal justice reform starts in K through 12 education. When people graduate K through 12, they should have the ability, the capability, and the knowledge to be successful, whether they go to college, vocational school, or get a job. That's where criminal justice reform really does start. Because we know if you graduate high school with a diploma, you're less likely to be in jail. We also should focus on recovery courts, because we have people in our state who have drug addictions and mental health concerns, and we need to give them the help that they need to get their life turned around before they end up in our judicial system. Or if they do, we need to give them the programs that they need. We need to do a better job of increasing funding for law enforcement, have workforce opportunities, intervention programs. Juvenile crime in our state and everywhere else is on the rise. We need to do programs that focus on juveniles to pull them out of that pipeline so they don't become career offenders and get them back into schools and get them back to where they can have that opportunity in life to be successful. We still need rehabilitation for people who are nonviolent offenders in jail. I totally agree with that. But the one thing that we seem to miss when people talk about criminal justice reform is being tough on crime. And so you have to have tough sentencing, especially for violent criminals. And I was meeting with DAs and law enforcement judges not too long ago, and this is the conversation that we had with them. Violent criminals will reoffend. And I know we have the journal here. Violent criminals will reoffend. Violent criminals don't start off as violent. They start as something less. That's why those programs are needed in the early part. And their rap sheets are not just 1 or 2 crimes long. It's crime after crime after crime. And so my message is we need to have tougher sentences on violent criminals to get them off the streets. When people say, oh, you're not passionate, you don't love people if you're tough on crime. Do you all love your kids? Because I'm pretty sure most of you have probably been tough on your kids. Just being tough on someone doesn't mean you don't love them and have compassion for them. Actually, you probably do if you want to be tough on them. You want to straighten them out. And so when you're tough on crime, it doesn't mean you're lacking anything. That means you actually want them to be better than what they are. But they have to understand that there's consequences. And the one thing I will mention is our justice system is so loose that if you try to kill someone, attempted first degree murder, and you don't kill them, and you have seriously body injury, you may be sentenced to 15 to 25 years, but you're only going to serve, on average, based on the stats from the Department of Corrections, 5.7 years. Why are you serving 5.7? Because you're a bad shot. Right? You meant to kill him, but you didn't. So you get out in 5.7 instead of 15. That doesn't make sense. And the criminals know that. And the criminals every day, as they keep reoffending, laugh at law enforcement and the DAs. And I had a DA tell me that as soon as they lock them up, they're beating them home for dinner. Think about that. As soon as they put them in jail, they're beating them home for dinner because that's how they can get out so quick. And so common sense tells you, because you have all these groups out there, all these groups who want to rehabilitate people, which there is a purpose for that. And they're going to tell you that we're going to make society more violent, that we're going to make prisons more violent if we do what we're trying to do this year. But common sense tells you if there's less bad guys on the street, doesn't that mean you're going to have less crime if you have less bad guys? I don't need a study to tell me that. But the real question comes down to, what is a life worth? What is a life? How much is it? What's it valued? There was a case in West Tennessee, and there's many cases out there. Talk to your journal, talk to your law enforcement. They can tell you about all these cases. But in West Tennessee, there was a young man who went to Rhodes College, Rainer family. He was at home with his girlfriend and 2 friends. Some people followed them home, did a home invasion. Broke in, stole their iPads, tied them up, pulled out guns. Won't tell you exactly what they told them they would do to everybody in that house, but it wasn't pretty. They ended up shooting him because he ended up trying to fight them off. The gun jammed, they ran after they shot his girlfriend. She lived, he died. And you want to know about that person, those 4 people who broke in that house? Guess what? That was considered aggravated burglary until they pulled the gun and shot him. But that person had 4 prior convictions to aggravated burglary. 4. In 14 years. Along with other crimes. You know how much time that one person served? In total? 18 months. So we had somebody who lost the life of a college kid who had all the potential in the world because our system says for an ag burglary it's not a violent crime and you don't have to serve less than probably on average 1.5 years at most. And this person only did 18 months. And so you look at it and you're like, that's backwards. We lost a life because the person didn't spend time in jail. So we need to have criminals lose their liberty and their freedom, not innocent law-abiding people. And that person should have been in jail. We have a bill, and Senator Lundberg's working it with me, called Truth in Sentencing, where there's 23 violent crimes where if we pass it, they have to serve 100% of their sentence. 100%. That's truly violent. 2nd-degree murder, vehicular homicide for intoxication. Think about this one. Drunk driver kills somebody, they find drugs in the car. What do you think the stiffer penalty is? The drunk driving that killed somebody or the drugs in the car? Drugs in the car. Think about that. Lost a life, and that's a lesser sentence than drugs in the car. Doesn't work. And so we need to pass truth in sentencing. And this year we're going to pass truth in sentencing. But it's for 2nd-degree murder, vehicular homicide for intoxication, aggravated assault with a weapon, aggravated assault for strangulation, attempted 1st-degree murder resulting in seriously bodily injury, aggravated burglary, especially aggravated burglary, aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping, especially aggravated robbery, especially aggravated kidnapping. 23 crimes, violent crimes. And don't let anybody tell you that aggravated burglary is not a violent crime. How many of you want to go home for the next month after someone broke into your house and stole everything you had and not have to think about it when you walk in that house, whether you were there or not? And when they break into your house, their intent, if you're there, is to harm you. It's not a non-violent crime, as a lot of people say. But as I said, there's groups out there who said if you pass this sort of legislation, you're going to make prisons unsafe. Okay. They're going to be more violent in the prison. Okay. That's an interesting concept. What are we doing in the prisons? Our prison system, you know how many days a month they can get for good credit in our state prisons? Think about this. 16 days per month. 6 months off every year. 16 days. And if you don't get it this month, so this month I try to break out, and so I don't get my 16 days. Next month I don't break out. Guess how many days I get? 16. Because I was good that month. Right? The expectation when you're in prison is you should be good. We should be rewarding good behavior. We should reward rehabilitation programs, but the expectation should be good. There shouldn't be an incentive for just not shanking the guard, right? I mean, there should be. But that's the way the system works right now. And on average, you get about 25% off your sentence with all this good behavior. And that's why people are serving so much less. But if we pass truth in sentencing this year, we will be the first state in the United States that has 100% truth in sentencing for violent criminals. The very first. I think tough sentencing decreases crimes, loose sentencing increases crimes, and the only people who are laughing at us are the criminals. The only people who are experts in the criminal system are the judges, the DAs, and the criminals. And they're going to commit crimes that they know they're not going to serve for. And people go, well, you know what, if they have to serve all their sentence and they come back out, there's no probation, there's nothing to hold them responsible. Okay. But guess what? If they commit another violent crime, guess where they're going? Back to jail. For how long? All of it. At what point do we tell society that if you commit second-degree murder, you serve every single day? How many people are going to try to do second-degree murder if you know you're going to serve 100%? How many of you are going to do it if you know you can get 30% minus 25%, you're going to be out in less than 5 years? Right? So there should be no cost too great for our state to bear. No cost too great for our state to bear to protect our neighborhoods, to protect our communities, to protect your homes. We call our homes our castle, but we sure don't treat it like that. And so we need to do a better job of loving and having compassion and getting to the people the help that they need for the programs for nonviolent offenders. Give them the help that they need to turn their life around. If they have mental health or drug addictions, just find them the help. At some point, you got to draw a line in the sand and say, there's just some crimes that are too great. And when you force families in our system, when those criminals are up for parole, and they go up for parole 4 to 5 times, guess what you're doing to the victims? You are re-victimizing the victims and their families at every parole hearing, that they have to go back and relive that time and time again. That's sure not compassion for those victims. So my main question is, when are we going to stand for victims and not stand for criminals? And that's where I hope that we lead to. And so as we move through this, you're going to hear a lot of stuff from a lot of these groups. I hope that you stand with us, stand with our House and Senate, and allow us to put in some truth in sentencing. Just like we did last year, we put in truth in sentencing 100% crimes for crimes against women and against children. Nobody complained about that. And then, let me just say, we talk about government closest to the people as well. The government closest to the people is your house. What do I mean by that? You should be in charge of your house. And when we went through COVID, that's what we did in Tennessee. Government shouldn't be telling you if you should get vaccinated. Government shouldn't be telling you to do what you need to do. That's your decision for you, weighing the risk and being accountable for yourselves. So the government closest to the people is you. It's not local government, it's not state government, it's not federal government. It's you. And so, as we're looking at what's been going on in America, and we're all about K through 12 education, and I hope we pass a funding formula this year that will put today's resources in the classroom for the teachers to be successful. Both my parents were teachers, my grandparents were teachers. And we need to move the classroom from funding in the 80s or 70s when I was in school. Schools are much different today. And put in a funding formula that actually takes care of what they need in the classroom today, not treating it like it was in the 1970s and 80s, because we're not going to be successful. But at the same time, we need to put parents back in charge. Y'all got to know what's going on in schools. You need to know what's happening out there. That's what Virginia was about. It's just right over next to you. That's what Virginia was all about in that governor's race. Parents wanting to be back involved in the conversation. And so when you look at what's happening in our libraries and schools, and I'm not blaming the librarians at all. This is not a librarian issue. What we have is we have an issue at the state with the State Board of Education because we're trying to figure out how these books are getting in our school libraries. And they have to be approved by the State Board of Education, but nobody's taking credit for it. Why? Because have you looked at the book list? Have you seen what's in there? There are issues in there. It's not a local issue. It's not a local problem. It's not a local librarian problem. And so we have to fix that. But parents want to know what's in the library. They should know what's in the library. They should know what's happening at school. But parents also should be in charge in making the decisions for their kids, especially healthcare decisions. And so what you're seeing is a coming about from what I view as the younger generation and the next generation saying, I want to be more involved. That people want to be more involved. And so we need to, as a government, allow people to be more involved, have them to have the capability of being more involved. And so as we move through this, we have some things to focus on. Our state is doing very well. And I would say that by far, any state that's around us is jealous of your state and our state. Because what they're seeing is the same thing that we come here to celebrate these dinners for, the philosophies of the Republican Party. And what we're doing at the state is the same thing that you're doing at home each and every day. We're saving our money for a bad day. We're cutting taxes by $1 billion. We reduce government spending by billions of dollars. We reduce business regulations, workers' comp reform, unemployment reform, tort reform. And guess what happened? Our economy is growing. We're not growing because we have high taxes. Actually, we're the second least taxed state in America. But our economic output is by far more than anybody else. So the philosophy does work. And in Tennessee, we are making sure that we follow through. And that's why in 12 years, now I know y'all been Republicans up here a long time. Long time. But Tennessee hasn't, as I said. All I ask is 88 more years of Republican control, because that will get us to the 100. And if you can imagine what we've done in 12, what can we do with 88 more years? And we may be able to revisit the Louisiana Purchase and have Tennessee purchase some more property south of us. And then you all can live on the beach in Tennessee. How about that? The last two things I'll touch on real quick is public corruption. There is no place in our state for public corruption. It should be rooted out at every opportunity. And so when you see these things happen, just know that the members of the General Assembly, it doesn't matter if it's Republicans or Democrats, the vast majority of us are going to make sure that we get rid of any corruption of anybody who's trying to do anything wrong. And that's why I was so proud last year at the House and the Senate working together on legislation. There should be no one who comes to the state who profits off their office to become rich. And so we passed last year the first ever ethics reform. And this year we're focusing on campaign finance reform. We're going to bring light to the dark money in our state, because we stand for transparency and accountability. That's what we asked for. That's what we're going to get. And then I'm going to close on this. And you know, there's always moments in your life, and when I go talk to groups a lot of time, I talk about there's a reason for everything. There's a reason why certain people in this room, there's a reason why you're sitting beside somebody you may not know tonight or somebody that you do know. But it's up to us as individuals to determine that maybe you're there to help someone else, or maybe they're there to help you. Because if you believe that there is a God, then there's a higher purpose for us being in this room tonight than just being Republicans. And so I know I've had times in my life where I've had people come in and come out, and they've been there for a month, they've been there for 2 years, or they could have been there since kindergarten. But those people come in and out of my life, and if I sit back and I listen, they're there for a reason to help me through a difficult time or difficult decisions. But if you know that, you also have to know that you have that same capability and that same thing that you should do. Our lives aren't meant to be public servants forever as elected official. Our job here is to follow our faith and make sure that if someone is struggling, to realize that just maybe if we know that, maybe we're supposed to help. And so my ask to you all is, one, as we move through our lives, let's have the compassion and love for people that we should have. But also realize that at some point in our life, your faith is going to be tested. And it's going to call into question. And I hope that all of us here could answer the call when someone challenges the faith. It's not time to back down from your faith. It's time to step into your faith and tell them that we do believe in God. There is a higher authority, and that we are not going to stand for what they're trying to push down on us. Because we have... Because there will be a time. I mean, if you read the Bible, if you read anything else, at some point in our lives, our faith will be questioned. You may live, you may die based off your faith. I think there's a higher calling than just living here on this earth. And so I hope everybody answers the call and always allow your faith to take first place. Thank you all very much, and God bless.